Hello, and thank you for joining me here on Sew Stitch Hex. Today, I'm going to be doing a review of one of my favorite books. It's called Fairest, and it's by Gail Carson Levine. This is the same author who wrote Ella Enchanted, which is also a movie. The movie I find to be better than the book because of various reasons, but this isn't about that book. Fairest, I find to be one of her better novels, is a retelling of Snow White, which is one of my favorites. You can't tell. So in here, I find it really, it's a very beautiful story, and they tell it from, it's a foreign land compared to the land of Frel, where where Ella lives. Like, she comes from the land of Frel. And here, they come from Eorthia, which is, in the movie, they're the foreigners, they're the outsiders, and they're enchanted. But here, that's normal. The main character, she doesn't fit in because she doesn't have the dark skin. She doesn't have the really perfect hair. She's more heavier set. She's very, very pale, and she has very stark blood red lips, and they just contrast with what is the convention of beauty in the space. So in there, not only is beauty valued, but so is song. And one of my favorite things is that the music and the song are so important. They're almost like magic in this kingdom. And I absolutely love it. They talk about their spells of healing, basically, but it's just songs of healing. And you go to not a ball where it's a dance, but a sing, where you sing. And all ceremonies are celebrated in song. And in here, they named her Aza, which means lark in Eorthian. And the main character, she was adopted by her family because she was abandoned in their inn. Their inn is host to many, many people. And spoilers, you can probably jump ahead in 30 seconds if you don't want to catch a spoiler. Aza is part gnome, so she is able to do this thing that nobody else can do. And that thing that she can do is called a losing. She named it herself, or a losing, however you say it. Basically, she can throw her voice, kind of like a puppeteer, and other people can, it sounds like someone else is speaking, or it sounds like the voice is coming from across the room or from an inanimate object. So in their inn, she talks about how she was treated no different from the other children, and how she was taught to read music and songs from their treasured leather songbook, kept on its own high table in the entry parlor. I picture this leather songbook being bedazzled and filled with just beautiful jewels. And I know they're not rich; they're very poor people. That's why they own an inn. But I imagine that it would just be such a beautiful thing, kind of like a grimoire of their magical song spells. And that was one of the things that immediately, because that's in chapter 1. When I read it many, many years ago, I read this book in a day. Technically, I read it in a couple hours. It's just so wonderful, and I love it. Another thing I like is that this book actually includes, songs. One of my favorite is a song that the person made up. It goes, "I am not a sir, but a serf, and my enemy's worse than a knight ever cursed. My foes are the dirt, the dust, the filth, and decay. I brandish my mop, my rag, and my scourging pad. My enemies flee, or they melt, or they die. But they have friends, and the friends have friends who have more friends. And whatever I try, the dirt never ends. Slime and grime, sludge and smudge, mud and crud, oh gooey guck and gluey muck. I'm not a sir, I'm a serf, and my enemy's worse than a knight ever cursed." You can tell it's a cleaning song. And I don't sing it out loud a lot of times unless I am comfortable with people. But I absolutely love this little song, and once I start onto it, then I start singing it myself. And it's full of little ditties like this, and cute ones. Some are in the Eorthian tongue, and so you can't you have to read the translation part, where they sing it again. And I find that really beautiful. It's really creative, and it's really interesting, and it makes for really interesting sounds. Another thing that is really cute is like they have the whole like world here. So like, yes, there's world building. It's going to be in any book, but like this world, I find it so beautiful. And they talk about the three tree, which is the song of Aortia. They talk about how there's these three trees that grow up into this one giant tree, and like that's part of the beauty of Aortia. And they also have a focus on birds, like larks and other songbirds. I love this whole revolve around music world. But it is a Snow White tale. So it does have a focus on beauty. You have the queen who is very focused on her looks. She has a magic mirror, which was gifted to her by the fairy Lucinda. And if you know anything about Lucinda, she is awful, terrible fairy godmother, and she will not take it back. She will offer to turn you into a squirrel though, or take away your magic, or various other horrible things. I actually heard once that she went to a giant's wedding, and at the giant's wedding, this was a rumor in one of the books, went to the giant's wedding and gave them the gifts they talked about in their vows, so they never wanted to be separated, so she made it so. She made them so they had to hold hands for like ever. They couldn't let go. Before the end of the night, they were practically trying to murder each other because, I mean, they're glued to each other. They literally can't let each other's hands go. And it's just like, be careful what you say around Lucinda. And she likes to just show up unannounced because no one's going to invite her on purpose. In the book, they actually, when they get married, they fail to invite her because they didn't want to have problems. Spoilers, which if you're watching a book review, you should expect spoilers, but she gives this magic mirror to the queen, who's from Kyrian? I can't quite remember. She's from far away. And one of the customs of the kingdom, which is why there's so much mystery about the queen, one of the customs is, until you're married, change nothing about the circumstances of which you met, especially for like the king specifically. The royal weddings and important ones. And so she wasn't known by the people. No one had seen her, so she had to be hidden until the day of the wedding. And then she had a sore throat, but really she just couldn't sing. She doesn't have the ability. Which is where Asa comes in. She becomes the voice of the queen. She becomes a singer for the queen, even though she's afraid for her life. So the queen uses this mirror she was gifted to make herself look beautiful, and that's how she gets the king. I think there's some other magic involved, but the king seemed to like genuinely love her, but it could have been a magic spell or something. All kinds of shenanigans ensues, and the main character, Asa, has to escape because she's blamed for all of these like horrible things. Whew. Sorry. She's put in jail and she's gonna be like killed. So like they help her escape, and she runs away to the gnome cavern where she's attacked by the queen, who poisons an apple, and that's where some more Snow White stuff comes in. And she is saved by her prince. The prince, who is mentioned in the beginning of the book, and also has my absolute favorite, like, if anyone asks me, because no one's really asked me, I'll tell you my favorite romance novels. Adult, child, doesn't matter. But this is my #1 favorite scene of any, like, romance. It's just super great. So Prince Idri, or Idri, depending on how you pronounce it, I guess. He is the main love interest, and he apparently has really large ears that people make fun of all the time. But really, Asa just loves him, and he seems to like genuinely love her despite her insecurities about her looks and her abnormal appearance in comparison to the other people in Aortia. And it's great. They're just so wonderful. So my favorite scene goes like this. She has just arrived at the royal tailors, and they have made her the most horrendous of gowns because they hate the queen, and she is now the queen's lady in waiting. They make her awful gowns of like the worst textures and colors and styles, just generally unflattering to her figure, when she specifically requested clothes that would be so boring it would basically put her and everyone else around her like to sleep. She didn't want anyone to notice her, especially because Madame Ethel's, I believe that was her name, the lady whose clothes she was wearing, that she was given to be the like traveling companion, the lady who brought her to the castle in the first place, was a fan of very outlandish, absurd styles, like colors in the most garish, imaginable, like interpretation, and like overly frilly and poofy and just unflattering to anyone. Well, they decide to play a prank on her, so they take and ignore all of her requests for colors, all of her styles she picked out, which would have looked lovely on her and would have complimented her well, and instead they give her ugly, horrendous gowns. So she shows up. The other gowns were as bad. Textures and colors stabbed at me. "We hope milady likes her new wardrobe," the tailor said, smirking. "The queen won't pay for these. I won't let them see me cry." The tailor bowed. "Consider them a gift. They will adorn you as you deserve." I left everything. As soon as I turned away, my eyes filled. I wanted to be alone in my chamber. People stood aside as I rushed toward the staircase at the back of the hall. I heard someone behind me. "Asa!" Idri. I didn't want to see him now. I ran. I reached the staircase and started up. He came after me. "Asa, what's amiss?" I climbed as rapidly as I could. Dame Ethel's skirts slowed me. He put his hand on my elbow. At least I was high enough to be out of sight of the great hall. I sank on a step and began to sob. What happened?" he said. But I was crying too hard to speak. He sat on the step below me. He reached up to pat my shoulder and my back, and he murmured, "Don't cry. What is it? Nothing so bad. Don't cry, sweet. Oh, dear heart, don't cry." Sweet? Dear heart? I turned to him. What was he saying? He rose and came closer and kissed my blood-red mouth. And this is chapter 21, and it goes right into chapter 22, where she's talking about, like, his lips felt so soft. I thought I'd grow old and die without ever a kiss. A melody bloomed in my mind, high and clear and joyous. He was kissing me. He drew away, a little away, and smoothed the hair from my face and murmured, "You smell like a meadow." I touched his cheek. I hummed the melody my mind was singing. He smiled and listened. After a while, I stopped humming, but the tune continued in my mind. "Why were you crying?" "It doesn't matter anymore." It didn't. "It does matter. Someone was cruel." I shrugged. "They don't know you," he sang. "I know you. You're the finest, kindest, sweetest maiden in Aorthia." He kissed me again. A prince could judge Ostimo. And that's like my favorite part in this entire book, and it's just really cute. So A Prince Could Judge Ostimo is about, there's like this very particular dish that they make in Aorthia, and the chef who works at the inn her parents live in and work in and on makes this dish very particularly. If you don't make it right, it is garbage. It is like complete trash. It is either like watery and bland, or it is like painfully chunky and spicy and gross. The way they describe it kind of sounds like a combination of like meat and oatmeal, but like it tastes like heaven. So I'm not really sure, but if you mess it up, you know. And in the book, they talk about so-and-so can judge this, and that's how you know this person has good taste. It's to say, they know a good thing when they see it. They know the finer taste of this very particular beverage. Kind of like someone who's knows wines. You know if they're a connoisseur or if they have no idea what they're doing. And the fact that that's part of her little thing is just oh, it's my favorite romance scene in any book. And I've read a lot of romancy books, but even if it's it's a child's book, it's a teen book, reading level 6.1, guided reading level X. It's not hard. It's really simple, and it's a scholastic book, but I don't know. It's just always been one of my favorites, and I can sit and read it, and I can read it aloud, even though I'm not the strongest vocal reader. I can read in my head, but yeah, this is my favorite book, and I thought I'd share a review of it. And I would love to find more like this, where you got the magical singing world and the fairy tales. And I do read Olive Levine's other books, but yeah. All right, bye. If you would like to have me read and review a book, just comment below. And if you've read this book, tell me what you think about it, because I'd love to know what other people have to say about my favorite tale. Alright, have a good one, and I'll see you next time on So Sit Checks.